Hi everyone, welcome back to I See Melanie. Today we're talking about Talamaska, The Secret Order. So today is the series premiere of that show, Sunday, October 26th, and this show actually leaked out last week. So people have seen it already. I am a law-abiding girly. I do not download my content. One really bad computer virus a decade ago set me straight. So I just watched this on AMC Plus this morning. And because people had already seen it, I saw people talking about it on the internet saying that it's kind of boring, it's kind of meh. And as I mentioned in my previous video, I have watched Mayfair Witches where the Talamaska is very prevalent. And I saw a little bit of them in season 2 of Interview with a Vampire. So I knew this show is about this body that oversees the immortals. It is not a show with two messy queens in a chaotic, toxic relationship. This is not that show. This is like almost in a way kind of like a police procedural in a sense, right? So with that in mind, I had my expectations at a certain level and I was looking forward to seeing it. I wasn't like super excited, but I knew I wanted to watch it. And I have to say, I was really, really impressed. I really, really enjoyed this episode. So I'm looking forward to talking about it with you all. So let's jump into things. So FYI, I will be making references to Interview with the Vampire because the show does it, so I can't not. And also, I will be making some passing references to Mayfair Witches because, again, Talamaska is very much involved there. And yeah, I won't go into too many details when it comes to Mayfair anyway. The first scene was really good, where we see that woman walking through East London, going through all these buildings, all these alleyways. We see her going through a library card, going through the Dewey Decimal System, looking at all these things, putting things in envelopes, placing those envelopes on random places on the street. A whole lot of stuff was going on, and I was like, what is happening with her? And then we see some crazy figures that look almost like revenant vampires, like the ones that Claudia and Louise saw in the premiere of season 2. Just kind of weird looking. And then we see that one vampire sick those beings on her. But before they have the chance to kill her, she jumps in front of she steps in front of a train. So clearly there is something going on here. There is something going on with that vampire who I think is named Jasper. And yeah, it was a crazy start to the show. So back in New York, in the mother house of Talamaska, Helen gets the eyeball that is from that woman, and she's like, okay, we're on to something nearly. If they were that afraid of that woman who died, that means that they're getting close to it, and so they need to find a new vessel, a new person to interact with these vampires, because what exactly we don't know. And then we see Guy, and we see that he has the ability to read people's minds. So he's like a vampire whisperer, potentially. We see Helen approach him, offer to talk to him to see what they could do together, and she offers him $5,000 just to speak. And I'm thinking, wow, you know what? I wish Talamaska had a chapter here in Toronto. I have no special abilities, but I will definitely take $5,000 just for an interview, and I think many employers should start doing that. When Helen and Guy meet up and she tells them that the Talamaska takes care of their agents' needs, everything they want in life, money, security, whatever the case. And I think at that point she mentions them looking out for supernatural type things. And Guy is skeptical of this, which, I would be personally. But Guy, he's been able to read people's minds since he was at least 9 years old. So it's like, yeah, it's kind of weird if somebody approaches you about this, but it really shouldn't be beyond the realm of possibility for someone like him, because why can he read minds and other people can't? Obviously something is going on with him that is a little supernatural right off the bat. And we get the sense right away that Guy doesn't really have many people in his corner. So like his apartment in New York, again, New York apartments, you get what you get. All you want is a place that's relatively safe that can house your stuff. And so we see it's very barren. He's on his own. And then when he goes to see his mother, or his adoptive mother, or his foster mother, actually, she doesn't even know like what year at school he's in. She doesn't know whether he's gone to post-grad stuff, whether he's in law school or has graduated or whatever. So they're clearly not very close. And so, yeah, so this lady has known the entire time. Like, this kid we don't know why he's able to read minds, but we know that he is. And because that's difficult, and she's a foster mother, she's probably not making all that much money and doing a lot of work taking in kids. So you have this body come in, or this entity, this group come in to say, hey, we'll help you raise this child. We'll pay for his schooling, his advanced schooling, so he's all set. It's good. So we have a guy here who's thinking about his entire upbringing and how things are kind of a lie, because he thought he got into NYU in the law school on his own accord, but really he had Talamaska kind of paving the way for him. Like, obviously he has to be smart to pass, but he had a lot of doors open for him without him even knowing. And it took this instant for his mother, his foster mother, to let him know that. And I thought it was so interesting when he called her when she was walking away, because she wasn't really divulging everything. And he said, Mom, 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 Ruth. It's like, listen, lady, you gotta tell me the truth here. I don't have time for this. You've been playing me for, 20 years or so. I need to know the truth. So when we get back to the Talamaska mother house, we see one of the workers there talking about this one particular person. I think he's a person. I don't know if he's a vampire or not. His eyes look normal. Who has gone all over the place and who is now in London, likely meeting up with this Jasper character. And then I think the lady with the glasses, or somebody mentioned it might be the 752. And we hear a reference to 752 later on with Danny Boy Molloy. So this lets me know, and I guessed this already, that Jasper, there is something wrong with him. He is not a benevolent vampire. But we do meet a benevolent vampire named Burton. And so I love New York. I think New York is such an interesting place to visit. I think it's such an interesting topic to discuss. I'm an urbanist, so of course I love New York, and I know a lot about, New York history and stuff like that. So when they were going to his house, Guy mentioned that over at the Dakota, and if you don't know, the Dakota, the building, that is where John Lennon lived, and outside the street by the entrance there, that's where he got killed. So it's kind of a known place in New York, right off Central Park West. And so we get there and we meet this guy, Burton. And wasn't he fabulous? He was really good. I like Jason Schwartzman, so it was nice to see him there. And yeah, Burton. Could you imagine Burton and Lestat in the same room? That would be, I think, too much fabulous in one room would be too much. And you see Burton, he's got all his screens, so he's keeping pulse on things, right? It looks like he has like a TikTok feed. He's looking at the news. I think I saw like a fashion show or like some random thing on TV. So he's really in the know. So Burton makes reference to the book and how he really hates that the Talamaska published it. And Helen lets him know, I had nothing to do with this. This has to do with the mother house over there in Amsterdam. And a little side note, there we did see Amsterdam, Talamaska on Mayfair Witches as well. So anyway, it seems as though, the vampire community does not like the fact that this book is out. And we see Burton, sussing Guy out and things like that. And so Guy quickly sees, okay, this guy's a vampire. I can read him. He can read me. We have a bit of a rapport. So I have to say this, the reaction that Guy had when Burton just like kind of teleported to the other side of the room and he leapt off his chair and he was really confused. I was thinking back to season 2, episode 7, I Could Not Prevent It, Interview with the Vampire, when Lestat teleports from the stage all the way up to that soldier who he's going to tell off for being homophobic. And nobody bats an eye. Like, to me, side note, I can't stop talking about Interview with the Vampire, but that one thing, I'm like, y'all know something is wrong with this man, because why is he able to teleport? I would have the exact same reaction as Guy. So yeah, it seems like Burton has a bit of an ambivalent relationship towards the Talamaska because, Yoko Ono and the Talamaska vouched for him to get this apartment here at the Dakota, and they have an arrangement. The Helen gave him that ring, and all these things. They have a bit of a chummy relationship, but he's not afraid to be frank with her. And I'm really, really curious to know, how do other vamps interact with the Talamaska? Because all we saw in season 2 of Interview was Daniel, and he wasn't a vampire as yet. So we don't really know, because it seems as though, Burton feels as though he's like a CI almost. So he feels as though he's kind of selling out his community, but he's doing it for What purpose exactly, I do not know, and I'm really curious to find out what that is. Okay, so the part where we see Guy on the ledge outside of the building, and then we see Burton come up after him. You know the first person I thought of when I saw that scene? It was Armand. Okay? Why was it Armand? Okay, so clearly this vampire is showing this immortal that I am more powerful than you, and I can control your mind, and I can control your body. So he said that, oh, I just suggested that you walk over there. Who suggests that a mortal person walks on the ledge of a building? You know? So the reason why I thought about Armand is because we know Armand and what he did to Louis. You know, of course, they had a bad relationship. They really shouldn't have been together anyway. And so the reason why I thought of Armand is because we know Armand and what he did to Louis. He scrambled his mind. He erased his memories. He made Louis at points feel and look as though he was genuinely in love with him. Like, I keep on thinking, and again, I can't stop talking about Interview with the Vampire, but of course the show's going to bring this out in me. It was the episode where, I think it was 4, where Louis, of season 2, Louis discovers that Armand, he didn't admit it, put paintings or pictures from a famous photographer in there amongst his things. And he got mad, and they were fighting, and they were arguing at nighttime. And then the next morning you see Louis, he's like, oh, yeah, me and Armand. He's all like smiley. I'm like, weren't you guys like yelling last night very loudly? I am convinced overnight, at that point, Armand did something to Louis to make him look all lovey-dovey. And so I thought of that, and I also saw it at the same time. And like, this can be kind of argued both ways. Like, you know, I love Lestat. I wouldn't call myself a Lestat apologist the way I call myself a Louis apologist, but I still call him out. But this might sound a bit Lestat apologetic, so just hear me out. So, obviously Lestat has lots of powers, but he never used them on Louis. So he never made Louis fall in love with him. He just waited for Louis to come to him, and, you know, they made love for the first time and they fell in love. He never did anything to his mind while they were married together. The only thing you could argue is that he held the cloud gift, and then when he dropped him, that was something Louis didn't know, but it could be argued that he used that gift, and it wasn't, the intention wasn't to drop Louis. Okay, I'm gonna stop digging myself this Lestat hole. But anyway, I would say on the whole, Lestat was better being a relative term, a better companion than Armand is. But okay, let's get back to the show we're watching today. Burton's character, I really, really enjoyed him. And again, he was pretty benevolent, because when Guy left, he said to Helen, you know, you're going to get this young man killed. So he actually cares about him. And it reminded me of when Lestat told Claudia, the vampires out there are vicious. So it really does seem as though there's something that happens when vampires are in or go across the pond. They become really, really terrible versus the ones are here in North America, I guess. I don't know. I guess we'll see. And it's really good that Burton gave him tips saying that your mind's a two-way street. Be careful. And then when he's sleeping at nighttime, he has, you know, a little head conversation about, I wrote it down. He says they will try to bend you or mold you or take you. And then we see the book opens to 227 of the Daniel Molloy Interview with the Vampire book. So, random side note, whenever I hear the number 227, you know, if you're a Gen Xer, maybe a young boomer, or a geriatric millennial like me, and if you're Black, whenever I hear 227, I think of that old sitcom. Am I the only one? Let me know if you know 227 or if you used to watch it back in the day. But anyway, he goes to page 227 of the book. And so there's a lot there. I'll put an image of it, but I'm just going to read over part of the second paragraph of that page. In it, Daniel's talking about Dubai and how hot it is in the sun and things like that. But there's a part that Armand mentions. And so he says, the car windows utilize the same tinting technology present here. Beyond that, we will exit and enter via underground parking. We have lived here a number of years, Mr. Molloy. With careful planning, the sun is no threat to him. Him being Louis. So I gotta bring it back to the main show, and I have to, dog Armand because there's so many things to dog on him for. So when you think about it, living in Dubai for a vampire who is affected by the sun is one of the worst places to be. I do understand that Dubai might be a place for rich people like them to kind of live in seclusion and have their privacy and things like that. And New York is a very busy place, but there are lots of billionaires there. I think a vampire could live there well. Obviously, Burton does. So I was looking, so I know Dubai is a hot place. Everyone knows that. But I didn't know exactly, like, how many hours of sun does it have? So keep in mind that we know that Daniel and Louis, or Armand and Louis, have lived in Dubai, obviously. Louis mentioned they lived in New York for a bit, and we know they lived in San Francisco. So I went on the interwebs and I looked at the average number of hours of sunlight each of these places have. And let me tell you what they are. So Dubai has an average of from 3,500 to 3,900 hours a year of sunlight. San Francisco has 3,000 to 3,100. So, 3,500. New York has 25 to 2,600 hours of sunlight. So a lot less sunlight, and that makes sense. Toronto probably has even less. Toronto, we probably have, 2,400 hours of sunlight. So out of all the places they could have stayed, they chose, or Armand chose for them, to live in one of the hottest, sunniest places in the world. Again, I think this goes to Armand controlling Louis. And it's another reason why I can't stand Armand. Okay, I'm going to stop talking about him for now at least. But yeah, what I'm really liking about this show is that it's tying everything together. It's tying how the Talamaska works. We can see some of the book. And again, it adds some color to the situations with Louis and Armand and Louis and Lestat and all that kind of stuff. So I'm really appreciating that show from that perspective. And also, on the second page, where they have the lists of all of those people who were killed in 2008, there's somebody named Melanie in there. Poor Melanie. But at first, I'm like, geez, did Armand kill all these people? Because remember, Louis said that he hadn't killed anyone since 2000. So 2008, who did that? But then we later learned that the Talamaska told Daniel, or they just published in the book these names of these people to intimate that a vampire killed them, but we know that's not the case, at least not for all of them. Okay, another thing, again, tying back to the main show, where Daniel is reciting the moment where Louis realizes that Lestat's the one who saved him, Armand was lying the entire time. So he's describing the scene where he goes into the other room and Louis is hovering over Armand, who he just threw into the wall. And Daniel said that Louis was calling out for Daniel. He said, Daniel, Daniel. And I heard that. I'm like, that is a bold-faced lie. Because I remember very distinctly Louis calling for Rashid. He said, Rashid, Rashid. And I even remember in my review of that episode, I thought at first the voice was Daniel's for some reason. I guess I wasn't really paying attention. So I was kind of confused as to why Louis was calling out for Rashid. So I think it's obvious that the Talamaska doesn't want any connection to that story. And so they said, okay, just say that Louis was talking about you. Which also begs the question, and I mentioned this again in my review of the finale last year, I'm pretty sure Louis knew exactly who Rashid was, that he was part of the Talamaska, and that they were working together. And I'm still confused as to why Raglan told Daniel to be more afraid of Louis than Armand. Again, all these questions. And I love that this show was bringing those questions up for me now. So Daniel and Guy have a little meeting at the back, and he's asking him, like, why did you write my mom's name? And again, Daniel says, I didn't write that. They told me to put that in. And he's kind of giving him the same advice, too. It's like, be wary of the Talamaska people. They're not good. And if you think, okay, I'm going to go find my mother, Maybe you shouldn't because she could be tied up with these Talamaska folk and you do not want to get involved in that. But of course, this guy is curious. You can totally get why he is. And then he sees a picture and his mom has a tattoo similar to that cross kind of look as the Talamaska's emblem. And he sees a reflection that she's obviously in London because we see the Big Ben. And as Daniel mentioned, like everyone's wearing Lululemon. So that is not a thing that was popular 15, 20 years ago. Not mainstream as it is now. Like I'd say maybe 12 years ago, you might see a lot of people wearing Lululemon. But not when that guy was 9. And he looks like he might be like 30 years old. So anyway, so we know that he's going to go to London because we see him outside the brownstone, ready to talk to Helen. And before we end off, we see Helen looking at a picture of 2 girls, look like twins, and I have no idea who these kids are, but I guess we'll soon find out. And so that is the end of the story. And so, yeah, I really, really enjoyed this show a lot. I was very pleasantly surprised. I am still now. Like, I thought it was really good. I really liked the actor. Oh, what's his name? I believe his last name is Denton. I'll put his name up. But I thought he was really good, and I really liked Helen. I love Jason Schwartzman, and yeah, I think it's a really good show that's going to help tie in all these entities. Oh, and one thing I thought was really cute when they were going to Burton's house or his condo, and Helen told Guy that yeah, we watch after supernatural, so zombies, witches, demons, and ghosts. And he said, oh, not zombies. And she said, oh, zombies are fake. You watch too much telly. And I thought that was kind of cute because obviously, you know, this is on AMC. AMC is totally known for The Walking Dead. You know, I'm a huge fan. And so I think it's a bit of like a kind of a joking dig towards that other entity. And also in a way, again, I am a huge fan of The Walking Dead. But I think in a way it's kind of saying like that era is over. Zombies are dead. It's all about the witches, the vampires, the supernatural. So bye-bye Walking Dead. Hello Anne Rice Immortal Universe. That's how I'm interpreting it. But yeah, no, I thought it was really, really good. I know there's a second episode that has been released, but I wanted to get this out first and watch that later. Because you know what's so funny? I ran into a friend yesterday who had watched this episode last week, and she said, oh, there's not really much meat on the bone with this one. I was like, okay. But I got a lot of meat out of this bone. So I enjoyed it. So I really hope you guys feel the same way I do about this show. And I think, again, if you go in with the mindset knowing that this is not a show with a bunch of sexy, messy men, you'll enjoy it for what it is. And I do believe it adds a lot of context. And it has me really excited for season 3 when I see the whole fallout of this book, because we're getting inklings of it now, but when we see it in season 3 of Interview or The Vampire Lestat, it's going to be even more worth it. So thank you for watching me here today review the very first episode. I will be back later on this week to review episode 2 because the day got really busy and I couldn't do both of them on the same day. So make sure you subscribe. Come back here in a couple of days. And leave your comments. Let me know what you think of this show, this episode, and we'll talk there. And I'll see you later, okay? Bye, everyone.